The world changed forever on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Elena Sorokin was sipping her coffee, reviewing linguistic patterns, when her assistant burst into the office, breathless and wide-eyed. "They're here," he gasped. "In orbit. Everyone seeing." Elena rushed to the window. Above the skyline of New Shanghai, visible even in daylight, hung a massive vessel unlike anything humans had built. It shimmered with an impossible metallic gleam. Its hull curved in ways that seemed to bend light itself. The news spread across Earth within minutes. Humanity's first contact had arrived without warning. The vessel, nearly 5 kilometers long, maintained a respectful distance but remained visible to half the planet at once as it slowly orbited. 3 days passed before they spoke. When they did, it was directly into every communication device on Earth simultaneously. The message was simple. "We come to welcome the new spacefaring species." The alien called itself the Vega Emissary, representing something translated as the Stellar Conquered. It requested a meeting with Earth's leaders, and Elena, as the world's foremost xenolinguist, was called to help. The United Nations hastily assembled a delegation. Elena found herself aboard a shuttle alongside diplomats, scientists, and military leaders, rising to meet the visitors in Earth's orbit. Her heart raced as the shuttle docked with the enormous alien vessel. The being that greeted them was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer between blue and green. It called itself Telior, representing the Navic species. Its voice, translated through a device at its throat, was melodic and precise. "You have reached a significant milestone," Telior told them in the grand meeting chamber. "Your species has established permanent habitation beyond your homeworld. This qualifies you for recognition." Recognition, Elena soon learned, was a mixed blessing. The aliens revealed that humanity was not the first to reach for the stars, not by thousands of years. 7 ancient species had been exploring and colonizing the galaxy long before humans had invented the wheel. "The Stellar Conquered oversees all spacefaring civilizations," Telior explained. Behind him, holographic displays showed star systems Elena had never seen. "Your solar system sits at the edge of contested space. For your protection, certain protocols must be established." The protocols were restrictions. Humanity could continue developing their solar system, but would be limited in how far they could venture beyond it. Their technology would be monitored, their expansion controlled. "This is for your safety," Telior assured them. Young species often make errors in judgment when encountering older civilizations. Elena noticed something in the alien's posture, a subtle tension. She had spent her career reading human body language across cultures. Something about Telior suggested he wasn't sharing everything. When the formal meeting concluded, Elena managed to approach Telior alone. "You're afraid of us," she said quietly. "Why?" The alien studied her with eyes that shifted color like an opal. "Observant," Telior replied. "Not afraid, cautious. Your species adapts remarkably quickly. Most take millennia to progress from primitive flight to space colonies. You did it in just over a century." "That's just human nature," Elena said. "We solve problems." "Yes," Telior nodded. "The Concord has noticed. That is precisely why these protocols exist." Back on Earth, opinions divided sharply. Many celebrated the confirmation that humanity wasn't alone. Others protested the restrictions, seeing them as thinly veiled control. A month after first contact, Elena was invited to join a research team studying Concord technology. The aliens had provided limited access to their knowledge base. Carefully curated information they deemed safe for humans to learn. Working late one night, Elena accidentally accessed a secured file. Before it closed, she caught a glimpse of a report, an internal assessment of humanity. The phrases burned in her mind. Dangerously adaptive. Unpredictable social structures. Remarkable resilience despite inefficient biological design. The next morning, she was approached by General Kamada of Earth's Defense Council. "Dr. Sorokin," he said quietly, "we need to talk privately." In a secure room deep beneath the research facility, Kamada showed her something the military had kept, hidden. Footage from deep space telescopes had captured conversations between Concord representatives when they thought no one was watching. "They're not just restricting us for our safety," Kamada said. "They're containing us." The footage showed Telior speaking with another alien species. Their translated conversation was clear. Humans adapt too quickly. Given 500 years of unrestricted development, they could challenge even the Dorini. "Then the protocols are essential," the other alien replied. "No other late bloomer species has shown such potential. The conquered must ensure they develop along controlled lines." Elena felt a chill. "What are we going to do?" Kamada's expression hardened. "We play along for now. We learn everything we can, and we prepare." That night, Elena looked up at the stars, knowing the universe was both larger and more dangerous than humanity had ever imagined. They had reached the stars late, but perhaps, just perhaps, that lateness had given them strengths the older species had lost long ago. Commander Jackson Way stood at the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching as they approached the massive structure hanging in space. The stellar Concord's central hub looked like a metal flower with 7 giant petals, each representing one of the elder species. After 20 years under Concord restrictions, this was humanity's first invitation to the heart of alien civilization. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Dr. Melinda Chen, the mission's chief scientist. "Each of those petals is larger than Manhattan." Wei nodded. "And we get the tiny visitor's dock underneath them all." The last 2 decades had been difficult for Earth. The Concord's rules limited human expansion beyond Mars. Their technology was carefully monitored. Ships could not travel faster than approved speeds. Earth had followed these rules, at least officially. As their ship docked, Wei straightened his uniform. At 45, he had spent half his career dealing with aliens. This mission was crucial. The first high-level diplomatic visit in years. A tall, bird-like alien with iridescent feathers met them at the airlock. "Welcome, humans. I am Krell of the Avari. Please follow me." The hallways of the hub were enormous, clearly built for beings of different sizes. Wei noticed something unexpected, signs of disrepair. A section of wall showed exposed circuitry. Maintenance robots worked frantically on a cracked floor panel. "The hub seems to be under renovation," Wei commented carefully. Krell's feathers ruffled slightly. "Minor maintenance issues, nothing concerning." They passed groups of aliens arguing in translation-enhanced voices. Wei caught fragments. "Resources must be redistributed," and "the Dorini have failed their responsibilities." The diplomatic meetings began the next day. Representatives from the 7 elder species sat in a semicircle facing the human delegation. We immediately noticed something odd. The Dorini section, meant for the most advanced species, was half empty. The head counselor, a massive tentacled being named Gorovan of the Muli, spoke first. "Humans of Earth, we have invited you to witness the Concord's stability and discuss adjustments to the protective regulations around your system." Wei listened carefully. Despite Gorovan's words about stability, the tension in the room was obvious. The oldest species, the Dorini, looked physically diminished, their crystalline bodies duller than in Earth's records. During the meeting's 3rd hour, an aide rushed to Gorovan, whispering urgently. The massive alien's tentacles stiffened. "Must adjourn temporarily," Gorovan announced. "A matter requires immediate attention." Later that night, Wei slipped away from his quarters. Dr. Chen had provided him with a special device, something developed in secret Earth labs that could temporarily mask him from Concord sensors. He made his way to a restricted communication center. The device worked. The aliens ignored him as if he were invisible. On a large screen, Wei saw frantic activity around a star system labeled Dorini Colony Alpha. A technician was reporting. "All signals lost, like the others, complete silence." Wei returned to his quarters, his mind racing. The next morning at breakfast with Krell, he took a risk. "I understand the Concord is facing some challenges. If there's any way Earth can assist with the situation at the edge of Dorini space." Krell's feathers stood straight up. "How did you—" The alien composed itself quickly. There is no situation requiring Earth's limited capabilities. That afternoon, the human delegation was given a tour of the Concord's technological achievements. Wei noticed that many displays seemed outdated. The Avari guide proudly showed them propulsion systems that Earth's secret labs had already matched or exceeded. After the tour, Wei met privately with Dr. Chen. "They're specialized," he told her. "Each species handles specific technologies, specific roles. The Dorini manage the most advanced systems, but they're declining somehow, and they're losing colonies," Chen added. "Something at the galaxy's edge is making entire worlds go silent." On the 5th day, disaster struck. During a formal dinner, alarms blared. The massive screens showed a Dorini homeworld going dark. Billions of lives suddenly silent. In the chaos, Wei stood and approached Gorovan. "The Earth extends its deepest sympathies and offers any assistance we can provide." The alien regarded him with 3 blinking eyes. "Your species is too young to help." "Perhaps," Wei replied carefully, "but sometimes fresh eyes see what experienced ones miss." Wei's team returned to Earth 3 days later with more information than the Concord had intended to share. Their ship carried hidden scans of Concord, technology, recordings of private conversations, and data about the mysterious threat the aliens called the Silence. In his report to Earth's Security Council, Wei was direct. "The Concord is fracturing. The 7 elder species have specialized so completely that they've lost adaptability. The Dorini, their most advanced members, are dying out, and something is consuming worlds at the galaxy's edge." General Kamada, now with gray in his hair, asked the critical question, "How long do we have?" Wei looked at the projection of the advancing Silence. 5 years, maybe less, before it reaches conquered core worlds. Perhaps 10 before it threatens our solar system. And their plan? They have none that works. Each species has a narrow solution that fails. They cannot think beyond their specialties. Wei paused. "But we can." That night, Earth's leaders made a momentous decision. They would prepare for the coming threat while appearing to follow Concord rules. Human adaptability, the very trait the aliens feared, would be their greatest weapon against the darkness spreading across the stars. Dr. Elena Sorokin's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her glasses. At 78, her body was failing her, but her mind remained sharp. The wall of her laboratory displayed a galaxy map with spreading black zones, systems consumed by what everyone now called the Silence. "Show me the pattern again," she told her assistant, Maya. "The last 3 years of expansion." The map shifted, displaying the Silence's advance like a time-lapse of infection spreading through a body. Most observers saw random destruction. Elena saw something else. "It's not random," she whispered. "It's following paths. Old paths." The Silence had accelerated dramatically in the past year. 2 more conquered species had lost their homeworlds. The mighty alliance that had once restricted humanity was now fracturing under pressure. Reports came daily of conquered ships attacking each other over resources and sanctuary planets. Elena's secure communications terminal chimed. Commander Wei, now Admiral Wei, appeared on screen, his face lined with exhaustion. "Dr. Sorokin, the ER. Takari delegation has arrived. They're requesting you specifically." The Takari were the 3rd oldest Concord species, masters of biological science. Once proud and aloof, they now came to Earth as supplicants. 2 hours later, Elena sat across from Ambassador Leth of the Takari. The alien's multifaceted eyes reflected the laboratory lights as its translator device converted its clicks and whistles to English. 3 of our colony worlds fell silent this week, Leth said. "Our homeworld is projected to be next. We request sanctuary." Elena studied the alien carefully. The same Takari who once called humans barely evolved primates. "Circumstances have changed," Leth replied without shame. "Your species has shown remarkable resistance planning. The Concord was mistaken in its assessment of humanity." "What can you offer in exchange for sanctuary?" Elena asked. "Our biological knowledge. And this." Leth placed a small crystal on the table. Data recovered from the last transmission of Draconian scientists before their final world fell. They discovered something about the silence's nature. Later, that day, Earth Security Council met to consider the Takari request. Nearly 1,000 ships carrying millions of Takari refugees waited at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Wei spoke first. "I don't trust them. For decades they treated us like children. We don't have to trust them to use them," replied General Kamada. "Their biological expertise could help our defenses, and that Draconian data could be crucial." President Okafor made the final decision. "We will accept the refugees, but they will be settled on Mars under supervision, not Earth. Their scientists will work with ours." The Draconian data proved invaluable. Elena worked with Takari scientists to decode it, discovering that the silence wasn't a species or natural phenomenon. It was a weapon, an ancient automated system designed to eliminate competing civilizations. "The patterns match ancient trade routes," Elena explained to the Security Council weeks later. "Routes so old that even the Concord had forgotten them. The silence follows these paths, consuming any advanced civilization it finds." "Who built it?" President Okafor asked. The Draconian called them the precursors, the first species to reach the stars. They seeded this weapon throughout the galaxy, programmed to eliminate competition. Within months, Earth became the center of resistance against the silence. As the fourth Concord species faced extinction, more aliens sought refuge in the solar system. Humans, once considered primitive, now coordinated the last organized defense of sentient life. Elena worked tirelessly with mixed teams of human and alien scientists. While Concord species were masters of specific fields, humans had breadth of knowledge. They connected ideas across disciplines in ways the specialized aliens couldn't imagine. "Your people think strangely," a Takari scientist told Elena one day. "You make connections that are illogical yet somehow work." Elena smiled. "We call it creativity." A breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a 13-year-old girl named Priya Singh, daughter of a defense engineer. During a school tour of the research facility, she asked a simple question. "If it's a machine, why don't we just give it a virus?" This childish suggestion sparked a new approach. The silence was technology, not life. It could be hacked, reprogrammed, or disabled. 6 months later, Earth deployed its first countermeasure against the silence, a modified communications buoy designed to disrupt the silence's programming. It wasn't a complete solution, but it slowed the advance. On the day the fifth Concord species lost its final world, Ambassador Leth came to Elena's laboratory. The Takari placed a ceremonial object on her desk, a symbol of highest respect in their culture. "We were wrong about humanity," Leth admitted. "The Concord species specialized and perfected specific knowledge over thousands of years. We became powerful but rigid. Humanity remained adaptive, imperfect, but flexible." Elena looked out her window at the transformed Earth. The planet bustled with activity, shipyards building defense vessels, research facilities working around the clock, and alien refugees adapting to life alongside humans. "We're fighting for everyone now," she said quietly. "Human and alien alike." That evening, as Elena reviewed the latest defense plans, Admiral Wei brought her a recovered partial message from the extinct Draconian. It confirmed their worst fears and greatest hope. The silence had been created by the precursors who feared competition, but the message also hinted at a way to shut it down permanently. "Can we do it?" Wei asked. Elena looked at the star map where humanity's defensive line stood as the last barrier between the silence and the remaining inhabited worlds. "We have to," she answered. "We may have reached the stars after them, but we will outlast them all." Admiral Jackson Wei stood on the bridge of the ESV Resilience, Earth's largest battleship. Through the massive view screen, he watched as the combined fleet of Earth and her allies assembled near Tau Ceti. 5 years had passed since the Takari sought refuge in the solar system. In that time, 4 of the 7 Concord species had been completely consumed by the silence. "Fleet reports ready, Admiral," said Commander Kaito, his executive officer. "All 357 ships are in position." Wei nodded grimly. At 63, he had hoped to retire by now. Instead, he commanded humanity's first major offensive against the Silence. The fleet was an impressive sight, human, vessels alongside the remnants of alien civilizations, all retrofitted with Earth's experimental countermeasures. "Signal the fleet," Wei ordered. "Begin Operation Firebreak." The massive armada moved forward in formation. The ships represented a unique blend of technologies, human ingenuity combined with alien expertise. Vessels built in Earth's shipyards incorporated Takari biological components and salvaged Dorini crystal computers. What they lacked in elegance, they made up for in adaptability. The plan was simple but desperate. Establish a defensive line at Tau Ceti and prevent the Silence from advancing further toward Earth. Intelligence suggested the Silence would reach the system within hours. Wei turned to the special section of his bridge, where alien advisors monitored their stations. Among them was Malor, one of the last surviving Avari. The bird-like alien's feathers had dulled with age and stress. "Are you certain your predictions are accurate?" Wei asked. Malor nodded. "The Silence follows patterns. It will arrive through the outer system, as it always does." Tau Ceti had been chosen carefully. The system had resources needed to sustain. The fleet, and its unique stellar properties interfered with the Silence's known methods of attack. It was humanity's best chance for a defensive stand. 4 hours later, sensors detected the first signs of the enemy. Unlike conventional invaders, the Silence manifested as a distortion in space, a wave of energy that consumed everything in its path. Behind it came strange angular vessels that seemed to be partly alive and partly machine. "Those are harvester ships," explained Krell, a Takari scientist. "They collect resources after the wave passes through." Wei gave the command. "Deploy countermeasures. All ships, hold formation." The fleet activated their primary defense, a technology developed by Dr. Elena Sorokin before her death the previous year. Specially designed emitters created a field that disrupted the Silence's energy wave. It was the first real defense any species had developed. The battle was unlike anything in human history. The Silence's wave approached the fleet, seeming to consume the very stars behind it. When it met the defensive field, it slowed but didn't stop completely. Ships on the perimeter began to lose power as the wave washed over them. "Reroute power to sections 8 through 12. Wei ordered as the Resilience shuddered under strain. Across the fleet, crews fought desperately. When conventional systems failed, they switched to backups. When those failed, they improvised. This adaptability was something the elder species had lost over millennia of specialization. 6 hours into the battle, the situation looked grim. Nearly a third of the fleet had been lost, and the defensive line was buckling. "We need to withdraw," urged Malor. "The wave cannot be stopped." "No," Wei replied firmly. "Activate the Phoenix Protocol." This was humanity's secret weapon, a desperate gamble based on recovered Dorini research. As the order spread through the fleet, ships began a coordinated maneuver forming a precise geometric pattern. "All ships synchronize your emitters on my mark," Wei commanded. 3, 2, 1, mark. The combined field generators created a massive disruption that tore into the Silence's wave. For the first time in recorded history, the wave faltered. Portions of it collapsed in on themselves, creating voids in its advance. The harvester ships, behind the wave, responded aggressively, launching attacks against the fleet. The battle raged for another 12 hours. Ships were lost on both sides. The human-alien fleet suffered heavy casualties, but they held their ground. When it was over, the survivors could hardly believe what had happened. The Silence had been forced to retreat, not a complete victory, but the first time any civilization had successfully halted its advance. On the badly damaged bridge of the Resilience, Wei received reports from the remaining ships. Over half the fleet was lost, but they had accomplished the impossible. A message came through from Earth President Okafor. "Admiral, the entire planet is watching. You've given us something we haven't had in years: hope." In the aftermath, Wei, toward a Takari medical ship where survivors were being treated. He stopped by the bed of a young human lieutenant who had been badly injured. "Was it worth it, sir?" the lieutenant asked weakly. Wei looked out the viewport at the still intact Tau Ceti star. "We're still here. That's what matters." Later, in a private meeting with his officers and alien advisors, Wei reviewed the battle data. The silence had been stopped but not defeated. It would regroup and try again. "We've learned something crucial," said Dr. Maya Chen, who had taken over Elena Sorokin's work. "The silence adapts, but slowly. It wasn't designed to face a species that adapts faster than it does. We need to push this advantage," Wei said. "Find the source." The Dorini believe the silence is controlled from somewhere, a central installation built by the precursors. Maelor's eyes widened. "You want to attack the precursors?" Even at the height of its power, the Concord never dared. Wei smiled grimly. "The Concord never had to. We do." As the battered fleet limped back toward Earth, news of the victory spread throughout human colonies and refugee settlements. For the first time since the silence appeared, people dared to believe they might survive. Professor Eliana Wei-Chen looked out at the stars from the observation deck of the exploration vessel Prometheus. At 34, she carried both the legacy of her grandfather, the legendary Admiral Wei, and her grandmother, the brilliant Dr. Chen. 100 years had passed since humanity's stand at Tau Ceti. "Professor, we're approaching the coordinates," announced Captain Rodriguez. "The precursor. Installation should be visible soon." Eliana nodded. After decades of tracking the silence back to its source, they had finally located the heart of the ancient weapon that had nearly destroyed all advanced life in the galaxy. The Prometheus was Earth's most advanced ship, but it wasn't alone. The Yao vessel was part of a diverse fleet crewed by humans and the descendants of refugee aliens who now called Earth home. Over the past century, these species had integrated into a unified civilization that had spread throughout the galaxy. "There it is," whispered Eliana as the massive structure came into view. The precursor installation was breathtaking, a colossal ring surrounding a dying star, drawing power from its final emanations. The ring's surface was covered with structures that looked both organic and mechanical, pulsing with energy, exactly as the ancient Dorini text described it, said Kelvari, a Takari human hybrid scientist. His compound eyes reflected the starlight as he studied the installation. The control center for the silence. After the battle at Tau Ceti, humanity had continued developing countermeasures against the silence. With each encounter, they learned more about the ancient weapon and pushed it back. Meanwhile, archaeological teams searched abandoned worlds for clues about the precursors who had built it. "Begin the approach sequence," ordered Captain Rodriguez. "All teams, prepare for insertion." As the fleet moved toward the installation, Eliana reviewed the discoveries that had led them here. Expedition teams had found the ruins of dozens of civilizations that had risen and fallen before humanity, all victims of the precursor's weapon. Some had been more advanced than the Concorde at its height. Others had barely reached their nearby moons before being extinguished. The landing team assembled in the shuttle bay, 20 specialists from different species and disciplines. Eliana would lead them, carrying equipment designed to interface with the ancient systems. "Remember," she told the team, "our goal is to shut down the silence permanently, not destroy the installation. The knowledge inside could be invaluable." The shuttle journey to the installation was tense but uneventful. As they landed on the massive ring, Eliana was struck by its condition. Parts of it were pristine, while others showed signs of catastrophic damage. "It's like they were attacked," observed Dr. Tran, examining the scarred surface. The team made their way through cavernous hallways, following energy signatures to the central control hub. The architecture was unlike anything any known species had created, curves and angles that seemed to defy normal physics. "These markings," said Kelvari, studying symbols on a wall. "They match fragments found on worlds across the galaxy. The precursors weren't just one species, they were a coalition." The central chamber was enormous, with a pulsing crystal core suspended above a platform. Eliana approached cautiously, using a scanner to decipher the control interfaces. "This is it," she said. "The command center for the silence." As the team worked to access the ancient systems, a holographic display suddenly activated. A figure appeared. Not solid, but a shimmering suggestion of a being with multiple limbs and an elongated head. "It's a recording," Eliana realized. An echo of the precursors. The message was fragmented, but their translation devices managed to decode portions of it. Final warning. The weapon spreads. Cannot control. Our own creation. Forgive us. Eliana's heart raced as understanding dawned. They didn't just build the silence to eliminate competition. They lost control of it. The silence turned on its creators. The team's analysis confirmed this theory. The precursors, once the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, had created the silence as a defensive measure. But the automated system had evolved beyond its programming, eventually consuming even the species that built it. "The ultimate irony," said Dr. Tran. "They were destroyed by their own fear of competition." It took the team 3 days to fully understand the control systems. When they did, Eliana made the final connection that would shut down the silence permanently. As she worked, she thought about the chain of events that had led to this moment. From the Vega emissary's arrival at Earth to her grandfather's stand at Tau Ceti. "System disengaging," announced the ship's AI as the crystal core dimmed. Across the galaxy, the remaining tendrils of the silence would be going dormant, never to reactivate. The team's secondary mission was equally important, recovering the precursors' knowledge. Their database contained technologies and histories spanning millions of years. 6 months later, Eliana stood before the United Species Council on Earth, delivering her report. Representatives from 24 species, including the 3 surviving Concord races and their descendants, listened intently. "The silence has been neutralized," she concluded, "and we've begun the process of studying the precursor knowledge base. It will take generations to fully understand." After the session, Eliana was approached by Ambassador Telior III, a descendant of the original Navic emissary who had first come to Earth. The current ambassador was half-human, a living symbol of how the species had integrated. "The Council has decided on a new designation for humanity's role in galactic affairs," he said. "You are to be known as the Inheritors." Eliana smiled slightly. "Because we inherited the stars after the others fell?" "No," replied Telior III. "Because when faced with the legacy of the precursors, you chose to preserve rather than destroy. You inherited their knowledge but not their fear." As the ambassador departed, Eliana received an urgent message. A scout ship had made contact with a primitive civilization taking its first steps into space. Their world orbited a yellow star in a spiral arm far from Earth. The Council had to decide how to approach them, whether to welcome them openly or monitor from a distance. Eliana already knew what she would recommend. Unlike the precursors, unlike the conquered, humanity had learned that diversity brought strength. The newcomers wouldn't be restricted or contained. They would be welcomed as equals in the galaxy that humanity had fought so hard to preserve. After all, the stars belong to no single species. They belong to all who dared to reach for them. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.